Chapter 1. A Mysterious Seed. Jack's Ordinary World. Jack, a boy with a spirit for adventure and a heart full of curiosity, lived in a small, picturesque village of Meadowbrook. This tranquil village, riddled by rolling hills and whispering forests, was Jack's playground and sanctuary. His life was simple yet fulfilling, filled with days helping his mother in her cozy vegetable garden, playing with his loyal dog Max, and exploring the seemingly endless mysteries of the woods that bordered their home. Jack's world, though small, was never dull. His imagination turned every shadow into a mystery and every rustle in the trees into a call for adventure. But even for Jack, some days in Meadowbrook felt too quiet, too ordinary. He often found himself longing for something extraordinary, something that would break the monotony of his everyday life. It was on one such ordinary day that Jack's life took a turn towards the extraordinary. He was at the village market when he stumbled upon a small crowd of children gathered around an old storyteller. This storyteller, a man with a beard as white as snow and eyes twinkling with unspoken secrets, captivated Jack instantly. With a voice as smooth as velvet, the storyteller wove tales of far-off lands, brave heroes, and most intriguingly, enchanted gardens where plants talked and danced under the moonlight. As the story came to an end, the crowd dispersed, but Jack stayed back, a myriad of questions dancing in his eyes. He approached the old man and asked, with a mixture of skepticism and hope, if such magical places truly existed. The storyteller looked at Jack, a knowing smile playing on his lips, and said, "Magic, my boy, is all around us. Sometimes it hides in the most unexpected places, waiting to be found." He then handed Jack a small and remarkable seed. "Plant this in your garden. Who knows what wonders might grow?" Jack's heart raced with excitement and wonder as he clutched the seed in his hand. He thanked the storyteller and ran home, his mind alive with possibilities. That night, as he lay in bed, he couldn't help but wonder if the seed would indeed bring a touch of magic to his ordinary world. The gift from the old traveler, Jack, arrived home just the last rays of the sun painted the village in hues of gold and orange. Clutching the mysterious seed, he burst through the door, brimming with excitement. His mother, a kind woman with gentle eyes and a warm smile, looked up from her knitting, surprised by his sudden entrance. "Oh my God, Ma," Jack exclaimed, opening his palm to reveal the tiny seed. He recounted the encounter with the old storyteller, his words tumbling out in a rush of enthusiasm. His mother listened intently, her eyes reflecting the wonder in Jack's. "You're a curious gift," she mused. "Why don't we plant it and see what grows?" she suggested, always encouraging Jack's imagination and sense of adventure. Together, they stepped into the Twilight Garden, a place that had been a canvas for many of Jack's childhood games. They chose a spot near the old oak tree, a place where the soil was rich and the sunlight danced through the leaves. With care, they planted the seed, covering it with a blanket of earth. As they worked, Jack's mother shared tales from her own childhood, of gardens filled with mystery and plants that held secrets. Her stories wove a spell over Jack, and the garden seemed to come alive with whispered possibilities. That night, Jack lay in bed, his mind alive with visions of what the seed might bring. Would it go overnight? Would it be a plant that could talk or move? The possibilities seemed endless. The seed, no larger than a pebble, had planted itself firmly in Jack's imagination, promising a world of magic and wonder. As sleep finally claimed him, Jack's dreams were a vivid tapestry of enchanted gardens where flowers whispered in the wind and trees told stories of ancient times. In his dreams, he wandered through this mystical garden, Each step grew covered in new marvel, planting the seed. The following morning, Jack awoke with the first light of dawn. He leapt out of bed and dashed to the garden, his heart pounding with anticipation. To his amazement, the spot where they had planted the seed was now marked by a tiny sprout, pushing its way through the soil with a vibrant green hue. It was growing at an astonishing rate, unfurling new leaves as Jack watched, spellbound. His mother joined him in the garden, equally astonished. "I've never seen anything grow so quickly," she said in awe. They watched together as the plant seemed to dance in the morning light, its leaves shimmering with an almost magical quality. Throughout the day, Jack couldn't keep himself away from the garden. He skipped chores and forgot about his usual adventures in the woods, completely mesmerized by the plant. It was not just growing, it was thriving, expanding in size and complexity with each passing hour. The plant had transformed into a small bush with leaves larger than Jack's hands. The leaves were deep, lush green with veins that glowed faintly as the sun began to set. Jack reached out to touch a leaf, and to his surprise, it moved slightly under his fingers, as if acknowledging his presence. That night, Jack was restless. He lay in bed, his thoughts revolving around the plant. He wondered what it would become, what secrets it held. It was more than just a plant. It was a promise of something great, something magical. As he finally drifted to sleep, Jack dreamt of the garden. In his dream, the plant had grown into a towering tree, its branches reaching into the sky. The leaves whispered secrets in a language only Jack could understand, and the air was filled with a sweet, enchanting melody. The first signs of magic. The next day, Jack woke up before dawn, an unusual occurrence for him, driven by an inexplicable excitement. He hurried to the garden, half expecting the plant to have returned to its original size. Instead, he found it even larger, with its leaves now unfurling like the sails of a ship, each one etched with intricate patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light. As Jack watched, one of the leaves began to move, not from the wind, but as if it had a life of its own. It gently bent towards Jack, revealing a hidden cluster of buds that rapidly bloomed into spectacular flowers. Each flower was a brilliant shade of blue, unlike any Jack had seen before, and they emitted a soft melodicum. Jack reached out tentatively, and as his fingers brushed against the petals, the flowers humming grew louder, harmonizing into a melody that seemed to resonate with something deep within him. It was as if the plant was communicating with him, welcoming him into a world he had never imagined. The magic of the moment was overwhelming. Jack sat beside the plant for hours, watching as it continued to grow. Each new leaf and bloom more extraordinary than the last. The air around the plant seemed to shimmer, filled with a sense of enchantment that Jack could feel tingling on his skin. As the sun rose higher, Jack's mother called him for breakfast, but he could hardly tear himself away. Throughout the day, his thoughts remained fixed on the miraculous plant. He shared his experience with his mother, who listened with a mixture of amazement and disbelief. That evening, Jack returned to the garden, finding the plant bathed in the glow of the setting sun. The flowers now emitted a soft, pulsating light, casting otherworldly shadows on the ground. As he sat there, a sense of peace and wonder washed over him. The garden, once so familiar, now felt like a gateway to a magical world, with the plant as its guardian. Sleep came easily to Jack that night, filled with dreams of sprawling gardens and singing plants, of a world where magic was real in every leaf and petal held a mystery waiting to be discovered. Jack's curiosity awakens. The following morning, Jack awoke with a sense of purpose he had never before. The plant's magical display had stirred something within him, a deep-seated curiosity and a longing for adventure. He dressed quickly and rushed to the garden. half explained the plant had reverted to an ordinary bush. But it was still there, more magnificent than ever, its leaves now forming a canopy that shimmered in the morning light. As Jack approached, the plant seemed to respond to his presence. The leaves rustled softly, and the flowers turned slightly, as if acknowledging him. Jack reached out, and as his fingers brushed against the leaves, they emitted a series of musical notes. It was as if the plant was communicating with him in a language made of melody and light. Jack spent the morning experimenting with the plant. He discovered that different touches elicited different responses. A gentle stroke made the leaves ripple with colors, while a more fun touch caused the plant to emit a low, harmonious chord. It was a dance of interaction, a conversation without words. With each discovery, Jack's amazement grew. He realized that this was no ordinary plant. It was a living, breathing entity with a language and consciousness of its own. The realization filled him with a sense of wonder and a multitude of questions. Where did the plant come from? What secrets did it hold? And most importantly, what was it capable of? Jack's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of his mother calling him for lunch. Reluctantly, he left the plant, promising to return soon. At the table, he shared his morning's adventures with his mother, who listened with a mix of skepticism and fascination. She reminded him to be careful, but Jack could see the glint of excitement in her eyes. That afternoon, as Jack sat beside the plant, he noticed something new. A small bud at the base of the plant that hadn't been there before. As he watched, the bud began to unfurl, revealing a tiny, perfectly formed door. Jack's heart raced with excitement. This was it. The beginning of the adventure he had been dreaming of. The door was just large enough for Jack to fit through. He hesitated for a moment. Then, taking a deep breath, he pushed it open. Beyond it lay darkness, but Jack could feel a gentle pull, an invitation to step into the unknown. With a mixture of fear and excitement, Jack stepped through the door. As it closed behind him, he found himself enveloped in darkness. But then, slowly, lights began to appear. Tiny, twinkling stars that illuminated a path forward. Jack took a step, then another, following the starlit path. He had no idea where it would lead, but he knew one thing for sure. His ordinary world had just become extraordinary, and there was no turning back. Chapter 2. Through the portal vine. The portal opens. Jack stepped forward on the starlit path, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. The darkness around him felt alive, humming with a mysterious energy. With each step, the twinkling lights grew brighter, guiding him deeper into the unknown. After what felt like an eternity, the path led Jack to a clearing bathed in a soft, radiant light. Before him stood an archway formed by the intertwining branches of the plant, shimmering with a gentle luminescence. It was a portal, Jack realized, a gateway to another world. Taking a deep breath, Jack stepped through the portal. He blinked as his eyes adjusted to the brilliant light on the other side. What he saw took his breath away. He had entered a garden of colossal scale, a world where everything was magnified. Towering flowers loomed above him, their petals as wide as blankets. Giant leaves formed canopies in the sky, casting big old shadows on the ground. Everything was vibrant, alive with colors so vivid they seemed almost surreal. Jack stood there, awestruck, taking in the sights and sounds of this incredible world. He could hear the gentle rustling of leaves, the soft whisper of the wind, and a symphony of unfamiliar, yet harmonious, sounds that seemed to come from the plants themselves. As he ventured further into the garden, he realized that he wasn't alone. The plants around him were moving, swaying gently as if they were aware of his presence. Some of them, even seemed to lean in curiously as he passed by. It was a world unlike anything Jack had ever imagined, a place where the line between the natural and the magical was blurred. He knew right then that he had stepped into a world of wonder, a place where the rules of his own world no longer applied. Filled with a sense of awe and adventure, Jack set off to explore this magnificent garden, eager to discover its secrets and meet its inhabitants. Jack's first steps into the garden. With each step, Jack delved deeper into the extraordinary world of the giant's garden. The sheer size of everything around him was both daunting and awe-inspiring. The grass beneath his feet felt less soft, and the fragrance in the air was a blend of 1,000 flowers, each scent more enchanting than the last. As he ventured further, Jack encountered a variety of plants, each more astonishing than the last. There were flowers with petals that shimmered like jewels under the sun, and trees, so tall they seemed to touch the sky. Vines snaked across the ground and up the trunks of trees, adorned with blossoms that glowed softly in the daylight. But what truly captivated Jack were the sounds. The garden was alive with a symphony of whispers, curses, and distant melodies. It was as if each plant had its own voice, contributing to the chorus of the garden. Jack felt a deep sense of harmony here, unity between all elements of the garden. As he walked, Jack noticed that some plants seemed to react to his presence. Flowers would turn their heads to follow him as he passed, and the leaves of trees would rustle softly as if greeting him. It was a surreal experience, making him feel both exhilarated and humbled. In the heart of the garden, Jack came across a clearing where the sunlight poured down like liquid gold. Here, the plants were even more diverse. They were flowers that danced without any breeze, their petals twirling gracefully, and bushes that hummed a tune in unison. It was in his clearing that Jack first realized the true magic of the giant's garden. They were beings of their own, each with a unique personality and a life force that resonated deeply with Jack. Overwhelmed by the beauty and the magic of the garden, Jack sat down on a patch of soft moss. He closed his eyes, letting the sounds and scents of the garden wash over him. In this moment, he felt a deep connection to the world around him, a sense of being part of something much larger than himself. This garden was a place of wonder, a hidden gem in a world that had forgotten the magic of nature, and Jack knew that his adventure was just beginning. There were mysteries here waiting to be uncovered, and he was determined to explore every corner of this magical realm. Encounter with the talking sunflower. As Jack sat in the clearing, basking in the tranquility of the giant's garden, a deep voice startled him from his reverie. "Well, hello there, young explorer," it boomed. Jack's eyes snapped open, and he looked around in astonishment. The voice had come from a massive sunflower towering above him, its face as large as a cartwheel, beaming down at him with a kind of gentle amusement. "Did you just speak?" Jack asked in disbelief, his eyes wide with wonder. "Indeed, I did," replied the sunflower, his petals rustle as if mimicking a chuckle. "Welcome to the giant's garden where plants speak and wonders never cease." Jack stood up, brushing off bits of moss from his clothes. Jack," he said, still in awe. "A pleasure, Jack. I'm yours," the sunflower said. "What brings a human child to our magical realm?" Jack explained about the seed and the portal vine, his words tumbling out in excitement. Helios listened intently, nodding its giant head from time to time. "This is no ordinary garden, Jack," Helios said once the boy finished. "It's a sanctuary for the magic of nature, a place where plants and flowers have thrived untouched by the outer world. Each of us has our own story, our own magic." Jack's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "What's your story, Helios?" "I am one of the oldest in this garden," he began. "I've seen many seasons come and go, my magical eyes and my ability to absorb the sun's energy and share it with those around me. I bring warmth and light to the garden, even in the darkest times." As they talked, Jack felt a bond forming between him and Helios. The sunflower his deep resonant voice and wise words gave Jack a sense of comfort and belonging. It was as if he had found a new friend in the most unlikely of places. Helios then shared stories of the garden, of singing roses and dancing dandelions, of whispering grass and ancient trees that held the secrets of the world. Jack listened, captivated by the tales of this enchanted place. "Be wary, yo, Jack," Helios warned. "Not all in the garden is as friendly as I am. There are areas that even we inhabitants avoid. Dark corners where the magic has turned wild and dangerous." Jack nodded, taking in the warning. He knew his journey wouldn't be without risks, but the adventurer in him was eager to explore every corner of this magical world. As the sun began to dip below horizon, casting long shadows across the garden, Jack thanked Helios for the conversation and the advice. He promised to visit again and set off deeper into the garden, his mind buzzing with excitement and wonder. Helios watched him go, its petals softly glowing in the twilight, a silent guardian watching over the young boy as he ventured into the unknown. The singing roses warning. Leaving Helios behind, Jack wandered deeper into the garden, guided by the soft light of the setting sun. The air was filled with the sweet scent of myriad flowers, and the gentle hum of the garden seemed to create a melody that resonated in his heart. As he walked, a soft, harmonious sound caught his attention. Following the melody, Jack found himself in front of a large bush of roses unlike any he had seen before. The roses were of various hues, crimson, pink, yellow, and even shades of blue and purple. They swayed gently, and as they moved, their petals seemed to emit a soft, choral tune. Welcome, Jack. The roses sang in unison, their voices blending into a beautiful, haunting melody. Jack stood, mesmerized by the singing roses. "Know my name?" he asked in amazement. "Who know all who walk in the garden?" Our roses reply, "Our roots run deep, and our petals catch whispers from the wind." Jack listened as the roses sang a song of the garden's history, of days filled with sunlight, nights under the moon's watchful gaze. Their song was a tapestry of joy and sorrow, growth and decay, painting a vivid picture of the garden's ever-changing life. As the song neared its end, the tone shifted, and the roses' melody took on a more somber note. "But beware, young Jack," they sang. "For not all is peaceful in this garden. Shadows lurk where light does not reach, and thorns guard secrets best left undisturbed." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "What dangers are there?" he asked, a hint of worry in his voice. "There are places in this garden that are wild and untamed," the roses responded. "There is where the magic has grown too strong, too unpredictable. Venture not into the thicket of thorns or the foul shadows. Heed our warning. For not all in this garden wish you well." Their warning echoed in Jack's mind as he thanked the roses and continued on his journey. The beauty of the garden was undeniable, but now he was aware that it also held dangers and mysteries, and it might be so welcoming. As the sky darkened and the first stars appeared, Jack realized that this garden was a world of contrasts, of lateral beauty and peril. His adventure was just beginning, and he knew he had to be cautious, for the path ahead was filled with both wonders and warnings. The wise old oak's advice. Jack continued his exploration, the warnings of the singing roses echoing in his mind. The garden was a labyrinth of wonders, but he now tread more cautiously, aware of the potential dangers that lurked within its beauty. As he walked, a towering figure, caught his eye. It was an enormous oak tree, its massive trunk and sprawling branches creating a natural dome in the heart of the garden. The oak was ancient, its bark etched with the passage of time, and its leaves whispered in the gentle breeze. Jack approached the tree, feeling a sense of reverence. The air around the oak felt different, thicker somehow, as if saturated with wisdom and age. "Welcome, young Jack," rumbled a deep, resonant voice. The sound seemed to emanate from the very heart of the tree. "We can speak too?" Jack asked in awe. "I've been here for centuries, watching over the garden," the oak replied. "I have seen many come and go, and I have learned much from the wind, the earth, and the stars." Jack sat down at the base of the oak, feeling its rough bark against his back. "I had been warned about the dangers in the garden," he said. "What can you tell me about them?" "The garden is a reflection of nature itself, beautiful, nurturing, but also wild and unpredictable." The oak began. "There are forces here that are not to be taken lightly. Respect is key. Respect for the garden, for its inhabitants, and for the balance that must be maintained." The oak's words were slow and measured, each one heavy with meaning. "The thicket of thorns to the west is the place of wild magic. It is easy to get lost within its grasp. The veil of shadows to the north is home to forgotten things, best left undisturbed. Avoid these places, Jack, and you may navigate the garden safely." Jack listened intently, absorbing the wisdom of the ancient tree. "Is there anything else I should know?" he asked. "Remember, Jack, that every plant, every creature in this garden has a role, a purpose," the oak continued. "And learn from them, and they will guide you. And should you ever lose your way, seek the light. The garden will always lead those with pure hearts back to safety." The conversation with the oak left Jack with much to ponder. He thanked the tree for its advice and stood up, feeling more prepared to face the challenges of the garden. The oak's words resonated within him, a mantra to guide his journey. As Jack walked away, the oak whistled softly, as if bidding him farewell. The night had fully settled now, and the garden was alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures. In the soft glow of and flowers, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose. He would explore this garden, learn its secrets, and respect its rules. And above all, he would seek the light, wherever his journey might take him. The mischievous weeds. Energized by the oak's advice, Jack ventured on, his eyes wide with curiosity. The moon now hung high in the sky, bathing the garden in a soft, silver light. As he walked, Jack noticed a patch of the garden that seemed different from the rest. It was wilder, was orderly, with plants growing in haphazard directions. This area was dominated by a tangle of weeds, the vines twisting and turning in intricate patterns. As Jack approached, he heard giggling sounds. It seemed to come from the weeds themselves. Intrigued, he moved closer, trying to locate the source of the sound. Suddenly, the vine shifted, revealing a group of small, mischievous little plants. They had bright, twinkling eyes and gleamed cheekily at Jack. "Hello there," one of them called out in a high-pitched voice. "Care to play a game with us?" Jack, always up for an adventure, agreed. The weeds cheered and began to weave themselves into different shapes, creating a labyrinthine path for Jack to navigate. "Find your way to the center and back, and we'll show you a secret of the garden." They chatted in unison. Jack entered the labyrinth, careful to remember the path he took. The weeds giggled and whispered among themselves, occasionally shifting the path slightly to confuse him. Jack focused, using his memory and sense of direction to navigate the ever-managed maze. Finally, after several twists and turns, Jack reached the center of the labyrinth. There, the weed formed a small clearing, and in the middle a single flower bloomed, unlike any he had seen before. She glowed with a soft inner light, casting a gentle radiance around the clearing. "You found it," the weed exclaimed. "This is the starlight bloom, a rare flower that only blooms under the light of a full moon." Jack gazed at the flower in awe. Its petals were translucent silver, shimmering with an ethereal beauty. "It's incredible," he whispered. As promised, the weeds guided Jack back out of the labyrinth, their demeanor now more respectful. "You're a clever human," they said. "How many find their way through our maze?" Emerging from the labyrinth, Jack felt a sense of accomplishment. He had not only navigated the maze, but also earned the trust of these playful, mischievous plants. It was a reminder that in this garden, not everything was as it seemed, and that wit and perseverance were as important as caution and respect. As he continued his journey through the night, Jack reflected on his encounters so far. Each plant, each creature in the garden had taught him something new, opening his eyes to the wonders and complexities of this magical world. The adventure was far from over, but Jack felt ready for whatever the garden had in store for him. With a heart full of wonder and a mind eager to learn, he walked on under the moonlit sky, towards the next chapter of his incredible journey. Listen, and let the story lull you into a peaceful, restful sleep. Chapter 3: Secrets of the Garden. A riddle of the water lilies. As dawn broke, casting a golden hue over the giant's garden, Jack found himself near a serene pond, its surface dotted with enormous water lilies. The air was crisp and fresh, and the gentle sound of water added a calming ambience to the garden's morning song. Jack approached the pond, fascinated by the size of the water lilies. They were large enough for him to sit on, each petal smooth and cool to the touch. As he admired them, one of the water lilies spoke, its voice a soft, melodic ripple. "Good morning, young traveler. Do you seek the secrets of the garden?" the water lily asked. Startled but intrigued, Jack nodded. "Yes, I'm exploring the garden, trying to understand its mysteries. And answer our riddle, and a secret shall be revealed to you," the water lily proposed. The other water lilies seemed to lean in, anticipating his response. Jack agreed, and the water lily presented its riddle. "I am a home without a door, a shelter that sails from shore to shore. I carry life in my ember tree, yet move with a gentle, drifting grace. What am I?" Jack pondered the riddle, walking around the pond, his eyes fixed on the gently swaying lilies. And it clicked. "You're a water lily," he exclaimed. The water lilies rustled, creating soft ripples on the water's surface. "That's young traveler," the first water lily said. "As promised, we reveal a secret. Beneath this lies a path, a passage that leads to the heart of the garden. Only those who understand the garden's nature can traverse it." Curious and excited, Jack watched as the water lilies shifted, revealing a submerged path of stepping stones leading across the pond. He carefully stepped onto the first stone, finding it solid beneath his feet. As he made his way across the pond, the water lilies whispered words of encouragement. With each step, he felt a deeper connection to the garden, an understanding of its harmony and balance. Reaching the other side of the pond, Jack looked back to see the water lilies closing the path behind him. He had ventured into a new, unexplored part of the garden, one that promised to reveal more of its enigmatic nature. Filled with a sense of achievement and wonder, Jack continued his journey, eager to uncover more secrets and deepen his understanding of the magical world he had become a part of. The dance of the dandelions. After leaving the pond, Jack found himself in a wide meadow, where the early morning sun cast a golden glow on the dewy grass. The meadow was dotted with dandelions, not the small ones he knew from home, but giant ones, a fluffy head swaying gently in the breeze. As Jack walked through the meadow, the dandelions began to sway more vigorously. It wasn't just the wind, they were moving in unison, as if performing a choreographed dance. Jack stopped to watch, fascinated by the spectacle. The dandelions twirled and spun, their seeds flowing up into the air like tiny parachutes, creating a whirlwind of light and motion. It was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, and Jack felt as if the dandelions were communicating through their dance, telling a story that went beyond words. As the dance reached its crescendo, the seeds gathered in the air, forming a glittering cloud. Then, as if guided by an unseen hand, it drifted toward a specific spot in the meadow, gently descending to the ground. When the dance ended, the meadow returned to its peaceful state, but Jack's curiosity was piqued. He walked over to where the seeds had gathered and discovered a hidden pathway, barely visible beneath the tall grass. Realizing that the dandelions had revealed this path to him, Jack followed it, feeling a sense of gratitude and connection to the dancing plants. The path wound through the meadow and led him to the edge of a dense forest, its trees towering and ancient. Jack sensed that the dandelions had guided him to his next destination in the garden. He took a deep breath, preparing himself for the new wonders and challenges that awaited him in the forest. The dance of the dandelions had been another piece of the garden's intricate puzzle, a beautiful and enigmatic expression of its magic. Jack knew that each step he took brought him closer to understanding the heart of this mysterious world. Filled with anticipation and a spirit of adventure, Jack stepped into the forest, ready to continue his journey and uncover more of the garden's secrets. The whispering grass. As Jack entered the forest, he noticed an immediate change in the atmosphere. The air was cooler, filled with the earthy scent of moss and ancient wood. The trees stood tall and proud, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. Beneath his feet, the ground was soft, carpeted with a thick layer of vibrant green. Grass. This was no ordinary grass. Jack soon realized. It seemed to murmur softly as he walked, each blade vibrating with a faint, musical sound. Intrigued, Jack knelt and placed his ear closer to the ground. The grass was whispering, its voice a symphony of hushed tones and gentle murmurs. The whispers were fragmented, like snippets of conversation or distant memories. Jack listened intently, trying to make sense of the words. He heard mentions of ancient times, of seasons long past, and tales of the garden's creation. It was as if the grass held the history of the garden within its slender blades. "Who are you?" Jack whispered, curious if the grass would respond. "We have the memory of the garden," the grass whispered back. "We have been here since the beginning, witnessing the cycles of life and growth, of joy and sorrow. We hold the garden's past and whisper its stories to those who listen." Jack sat among the whispering grass, captivated by its tales. It spoke of a time when the garden was young, of the creatures that had roamed its paths, and of the giant gardener who had once tended to its needs with a gentle, loving hand. The more he listened, the more Jack felt connected to the garden and its history. He understood now that this place was more than just a collection of plants and flowers. It was a lane, breathing into the rich with stories and memories. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting beams of light through the canopy above, Jack reluctantly stood up and continued his journey. The whispering grass seemed to bid him farewell, its soft murmurs fading as he walked away. The experience left Jack with a deeper appreciation for the garden and its many wonders. He realized that every plant, Every creature here had a story to tell, a piece of the garden's vast, intricate tapestry. Filled with a newfound respect for the garden and its history, Jack ventured deeper into the forest, eager to discover more secrets and continue his magical journey. Nightfall in the garden. The day gradually melted into evening as Jack ventured deeper into the forest. The fading light filtered through the dense canopy, casting intricate patterns on the forest floor. As dusk settled in, the garden began to transform, unveiling a nocturnal world that was as mystical as it was mysterious. The first thing Jack noticed was the change in the colors around him. The vibrant greens and bright hues of the day gave way to a palette of deep blues, purples and silvers. Flowers that had been closed during the day now bloomed under the moonlight, emitting soft, luminescent glows. The air was filled with new scents, more potent and exotic than those of the day. As he walked, Jack heard the gentle rustling of nocturnal creatures stirring in the undergrowth. Fireflies began to emerge, the tiny lights flickering like stars brought down to earth. The garden at night was a symphony of sights and sounds that Jack had never experienced before. He came upon a clearing where the moonlight shone brightest, illuminating a scene of ethereal beauty. Here a group of mushrooms glowed with an intense light, their caps like tiny, illuminated umbrellas. Jack approached them in awe, marveling at their delicate luminescence. The mushrooms seemed to pulse gently, and as Jack reached out to touch one, it emitted a soft musical note. Surprised, he touched another, and the two produced a note different from the first. Soon, Jack was playing a melody, each mushroom adding unique sound to the song. As the melody filled the air, other creatures of the night were drawn to the clearing. Small furry animals with bright eyes peered out from the shadows, and elves hooted softly from the treetops. It was as if the whole garden was coming together to share in the magic of the night. Jack felt a profound sense of peace and unity in that moment. The garden at night was not a place to fear, but a different world to explore and appreciate. It held its own secrets, its own beauty, different from the day but equally wondrous. Eventually, the melody faded, and the creatures retreated back into the shadows. Jack knew it was time to move on. He left the clearing with a sense of wonder as heartful of the magic he had experienced. As he continued his journey through the night, Jack realized that the garden was teaching him to see beauty in all its forms, to appreciate the cycles of nature, and to understand the delicate balance between light and darkness. The mysterious glowing mushrooms. Intrigued by the glowing mushrooms and their nocturnal melody, Jack decided to explore further. He had noticed that these mushrooms not only illuminated the clearing, but also seemed to form a trail leading deeper into the forest. Trusting his instincts, Jack followed the glowing path. As he walked, the forest around him seemed to come alive in the moonlight. The glowing mushrooms were everywhere, on tree trunks, amongst the foliage, and along the forest floor. They created a path of light in the darkness, guiding Jack through the night. The deeper he went, the larger and more varied the mushrooms became. Some were as tall as Jack himself, with caps that shone like beacons. Others were smaller, forming clusters that twinkled like stars fallen to the earth. Jack marveled at the beauty and diversity of these fungi. He remembered stories he had heard about the magical properties of mushrooms in folklore and fairy tales. But seeing them in person was a completely different experience. Eventually, the trail of mushrooms led Jack to a small, secluded glade. In the center of the glade was a mushroom unlike any he had seen before. It was enormous, almost the size of a small house, with a cap that glowed deep, radiant blue. The air around it seemed to shimmer with energy, and Jack felt a pull towards it, as if it was beckoning him. As he approached the giant mushroom, he noticed that its stem was covered in intricate carvings and symbols. It glowed faintly, adding to the mystical aura of the place. Jack reached out to touch the carvings, and as he did, the symbols began to glow brighter, revealing a hidden message. The carvings told the story of the giant's garden, of how it was created as a sanctuary for all forms of plant and fungal life. The mushroom itself was the guardian of the garden, a keeper of knowledge and wisdom. But it had been watching over the garden for centuries, its existence unknown to most. The guardian spoke to Jack in a voice that was both ancient and soothing. It shared secrets of the garden, of hidden places and forgotten tales. It spoke of the balance of nature, of the importance of every creature and plant within this situm. Jack listened, captivated by the guardian's words. He learned about the interconnectedness of all life in the garden, and how each element played a vital role in maintaining its harmony. As dawn approached, the guardian's glow began to fade, and its voice became a whisper that thanked Jack for listening and for respecting the sanctity of the garden. As a parting gift, it imparted to Jack a deeper understanding of the magic of nature and the importance of preserving it. Filled with a newfound appreciation and wisdom, Jack left the glade as the first light of dawn filtered through the trees. The night's adventure had given him a profound insight into the garden's mysteries and its delicate balance. The Lost Diary of the Gardener. As the first light of dawn brought a new day in the giant's garden, Jack continued his exploration. The advice from the guardian mushroom resonated deeply within him, filling him with a sense of purpose. He now looked at the garden with different eyes, seeing the eternal oddness of all its inhabitants. Wandering through a particularly lush part of the garden, Jack stumbled upon an old, overgrown greenhouse. Its glass panels were fogged and covered with vines, but it still stood sturdy, a testament to the garden's history. Curiosity piqued. Jack pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The air was thick with the scent of soil and old leaves. The greenhouse was filled with an array of plants, some thriving, others long withered. It was like stepping into a forgotten sanctuary. In the corner of the greenhouse, under a pile of dried leaves, Jack found an old leather-bound book. Brushing off the dust, he opened it to find handwritten pages filled with notes, sketches, and observations. It was the diary of the gardener, who had once tended to this magical place. Jack sat down amidst the overgrowth and began to read. The diary detailed the gardener's journey in creating and nurturing the giant's garden. It spoke of the initial planting, the discovery of the garden's magical properties, and the gardener's growing bond of the plants and creatures that called it home. Each page was a window into the past, reviewing the gardener's thoughts and feelings, the triumphs and challenges. The gardener wrote of the joy in seeing the garden flourish, and the sorrow in witnessing the occasional decay and loss. Through the entries, Jack gained insights into the cycles of nature, importance of care, and respect for all living things, and the deep intrinsic connection between humans and the natural world. One entry in particular caught Jack's attention. It was about the creation of the portal vine, the plant that had led Jack to the garden. The gardener had infused the vine with a magic meant to connect worlds, to show those who entered the beauty and importance of nature. It was meant to be a bridge, a way for others to experience the wonder of the giant's garden. As Jack closed the diary, he felt a profound sense of gratitude towards the gardener. This person, whom he had never met, had created a world of wonder and magic, a place that had now become a significant part of Jack's life. Stepping out of the greenhouse, Jack looked at the garden with new appreciation. He understood now that he was part of its story, just as it was part of his. The garden was a living legacy, the piece of the past that continued to grow and evolve. filled with a deep respect for the garden and its creator. Jack knew that his journey was far from over. There were still many secrets to uncover, many wonders to behold. But for now, he had a newfound understanding of the giant's garden and its significance. Chapter 4: The Thread Looms. The discovery of the withered section. With a newfound understanding of the giant's garden, Jack continued his journey. The sun was high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the lush greenery. However, as he ventured further, he noticed a stark change in the landscape. The vibrant colors of the garden began to fade, giving way to a duller, more somber palette. Jack stumbled upon a section of the garden he hadn't seen before. Here, the plants looked sickly. The leaves wilted and discolored. The ground was dry and cracked, and the air held a stale, lifeless quality. It was a stark contrast to the vitality and magic of the rest of the garden. Concerned, Jack examined the withered plants. It was clear that something was wrong, something more than just natural decay. There was an unnatural blight here, a corruption that was slowly spreading through this part of the garden. As he walked through the withered section, Jack's thoughts were troubled. The garden was a place of balance and harmony, but this blight threatened to disrupt that. He wondered about the cause, whether it was something external or a natural cycle of the garden. He hadn't yet understood. His exploration led him to a small pond in the center of the withered area. The water was murky, and the plants surrounding it were among the most affected by the blight. Jack knelt by the pond, looking for any signs of what could be causing this affliction. It was then that he noticed a faint, dark energy emanating from the water. It was subtle, but to Jack, who had become attuned to the garden's magic, it was unmistakable. Something within the pond was the source of the blight. Jack realized that to save the garden, he needed to find out more about this dark energy and find a way to stop it. The garden had become important to him, a place of wonder and discovery, and he couldn't let it succumb to this mysterious ailment. With a sense of resolve, Jack decided to seek the garden's inhabitants. He knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, but he was determined to restore the balance and health of the giant's garden. The tale of the giant gardener. Determined to uncover the mystery behind the blight, Jack set out to consult the oldest inhabitants of the garden. He remembered the wise old oak Helios and thought it the best place to start. As he made his way back to the oak tree, the change in the garden's atmosphere was palpable, the air growing heavier as he left the withered section behind. Upon reaching the oak, Jack shared his discovery of the blighted area and his concern for the garden. The oak's leaves rustled softly as it absorbed Jack's words. Young wine. Helios sighed, which he had found as a sorrowful chapter in the garden's tale. It is tied to the giant gardener, the one who first planted these lands. Jack listened intently as Helios recounted the story of the giant gardener. He was a being of immense size and power, with a heart deeply connected to nature. The giant gardener had created the garden, infusing it with magic and tending to it with great care. For centuries, the garden flourished under his guardianship. However, as time passed, the giant gardener grew weary. His strength waned, and he knew his time in the garden was coming to an end. In his final days, he sought to preserve the garden's magic, imbuing the heart of the garden with his essence. But in doing so, an imbalance was created, resulting in the area of blight Jack had discovered. The blight is a manifestation of the giant gardener's sorrow, a physical representation of the garden's grief for its creator. Helios exclaimed. It has been slowly spreading, tainting the garden's magic. Jack felt a mix of sadness and determination. Is there a way to heal the blight? To restore balance to the garden? He asked. The key lies in understanding the giant gardener's essence, his deep connection to the garden, said Helios. You must find the heart of the garden, where his presence is strongest, and seek a way to harmonize the energies there. Helios' words set Jack on a new path, one that would require all his courage and wisdom. He thanked the old oak and set off to find the heart of the garden, his resolve strengthened by the knowledge of the giant gardener's legacy. As he ventured forth, Jack realized that the fate of the garden was now intertwined with his own journey. He was no longer just an explorer. He had become a guardian, tasked with healing a wound deep within the magical realm he had grown to love. The spread of the blight. As Jack journeyed towards the heart of the garden, he noticed with growing alarm the gradual spread of the blight. What had started in a small area was now inching its way through the garden, leaving a trail of withered plants and faded colors in its wake. The vibrant life force that once pulsed through the garden was waning, replaced by the unwieldy whispers of the plants now carried a tone of distress, and even the air felt heavier, as if burdened by the garden's sorrow. Jack's heart ached at the sight. This beautiful, magical place that had opened his eyes to wonders he never imagined was suffering, and he felt a deep responsibility to help. He recalled the words of Helios, understanding that the key to healing the garden lay in addressing the heart of the blight, where the giant gardener's essence was strongest. As he made his way through the garden, Jack's resolve was tested. The blight seemed to resist his presence, as if aware of his intent to heal the garden. Thorny vines blocked his path, and thick fog obscured his vision, making it difficult to navigate. But Jack pressed on, his determination fueled by the memories of the garden's beauty and the stories of the giant gardener. He knew that the garden was more than just a collection of claims. It was a legacy of love and care that he was now a part of. Finally, after battling through the obstacles, Jack reached a clearing. He knew instinctively that this was the heart of the garden. The area was still, and the ground beneath his feet pulsed with a faint energy. In the center of the clearing stood a magnificent tree, its bark gnarled and ancient, its branches bare. This, Jack realized, was the epicenter of the blight, a place where the giant gardener's sorrow had taken root. Approaching the tree, Jack felt a surge of emotion: sadness, loss, but also a glimmer of hope. He placed his hand on the tree's trunk, feeling the residual magic of the giant gardener. There was a connection across time, a link to the one who had first breathed life into the garden. Jack closed his eyes, focusing his thoughts on the tree, on the garden, and on the legacy of the giant gardener. He whispered words of gratitude and promise, vowing to do all he could to restore the balance and heal the garden. The tree seemed to respond, its energy pulsating under Jack's touch. It was as if the garden itself was acknowledging Jack's pledge and trusting him with its future. With a renewed purpose, Jack knew what he had to do. He needed to find a way to harmonize the energies within the garden, to blend the sorrow of the past with the hope of the future. Gathering the plant's strength, having connected with the heart of the garden and understanding the magnitude of the task ahead, Jack set out to rally the inhabitants of the garden. He knew that to combat the blights, it would require the collective strength and magic of all the garden's denizens. Jack first returned to the wise old oak Helios and explained his plan. The oak, with its deeper roots of ancient wisdom, was eager to help. Helios extended its branches, sending a call throughout the garden. A call to unite against the spreading blight. One by one, the inhabitants of the garden responded. A talking sunflower, Helios' friend, gathered the flowers, who infused the air with an invigorating fragrance, strengthening the resolve of all who inhaled it. The singing roses lent their melodies, creating a symphony that reverberated with hope and vitality. Even the mischievous weeds who had once played tricks on Jack came forward, intertwining their vines to form protective barriers against the encroaching blight. A whispering grass shared the tales of resilience. They had whispered for centuries, inspiring courage among the garden's residents. The glowing mushrooms, illuminated by the moonlight, provided light in the darkest corners of the garden, guiding Jack and his allies as they worked to heal the land. The fireflies, with their gentle glow, offered their light as a beacon of hope. As the garden's inhabitants came together, a remarkable transformation began. The combined strengths of their magic and resolve started to push back against the blight. The withered plants began to recover, their leaves gradually regaining their vibrant colors. The air became fresher, the heavy-weighted despair lifting. Jack felt a surge of gratitude and pride as he watched the garden rally. It was a testament to the power of unity and the resilience of nature. Each plant, each creature in the garden played a crucial role, contributing their unique abilities to the collective effort. The battle against the blight was not over, but for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope. The garden was healing, its magic rekindling. Jack knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but with the support of his newfound friends and allies, he believed they could restore the garden to its former glory. A race against time, the collective effort of the garden's inhabitants had begun to turn the tide against the blight. But Jack knew they were not out of danger yet. The heart of the garden, the ancient tree where the giant gardener's sorrow had manifested, still remained engulfed in the dark energy of the blight. It was clear that the final battle to save the garden would take place there. Jack, accompanied by a group of the garden's bravest plants and creatures, made their way to the ancient tree. The air grew colder as they approached, and the ground beneath their feet crackled with the residue of the blight's corruption. Standing before the tree, Jack could feel the intensity of the dark energy emanating from it. The blight had taken a strong hold here, and it would not be easily vanquished. He realized that this was more than a physical battle. It was a fight for the soul of the garden. The plants and creatures gathered around Jack, ready to lend their strength. The talking sunflower, Helios, and the singing roses began to infuse the air with a sense of warmth and hope. The mischievous weeds formed a protective circle around them, while the glowing mushrooms cast a soothing light, countering the darkness of the blight. Jack stepped forward, placing his hands on the bark of the ancient tree. He called upon the memory of the giant gardener, seeking his guidance and strength. As he did so, the tree began to respond. The dark energy pulsated, then slowly began to recede, as if being pushed back by an unseen force. The garden's magic, combined with Jack's determination and the legacy of the giant gardener, was healing the tree, restoring the balance that had been lost. It was a slow, arduous process, and Jack could feel the strain of the battle. The blight fought back, lashing out with tendrils of dark energy, but the garden stood firm, its inhabitants united in their purpose. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the dark energy gave way. A burst of light emanated from the tree, spreading throughout the garden. The blight was vanquished, and the garden erupted in a chorus of joyous sounds. Flowers bloomed, trees swayed, and the air was filled with the melodies of the singing roses. Jack collapsed, exhausted but triumphant. The garden's inhabitants gathered around him, their gratitude evident in their voices and rustling leaves. They had won, and the garden was safe once more. As the garden began to heal and thrive again, Jack knew that his journey had changed him. He had arrived as an explorer, but he had become a guardian, a protector of the giant's garden. They had formed an unbreakable bond with this magical place and its inhabitants. The garden was alive with the magic of nature, a magic that Jack had helped to preserve. As he looked around at the vibrant beauty of the garden, now free from the shadow of the blight, he felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. A garden was a testament to the power of hope, unity, and the enduring strength of the natural world. Chapter 5. Restoring the Garden's Magic, the Dawn of Hope. In the aftermath of the battle against the blight, the giant's garden began to experience a remarkable revival. The sun rose on a garden that was once again teeming with life. Its magic restored, the air was fresher, the colors more vibrant, and the sense of harmony that had been lost was now reclaimed. Jack, although weary from the ordeal, felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had played a pivotal role in saving this magical place, forming a deep bond with its inhabitants and the very essence of the garden itself. As he walked through the garden, he noticed the changes around him. The withered plants he had seen were now flourishing, their leaves unfurling towards the sun. The water in the pond was clear again, reflecting the blue sky and the fluffy clouds drifting lazily above. The talking sunflower, Coziest, greeted Jack with a bright smile. "You have done well, young guardian," it said. "The garden is indebted to you. Their courage and heart have brought back a balance we so desperately needed." The singing roses serenaded Jack with a melody of gratitude, their voices harmonizing in a song that spoke of renewal and hope. The mischievous weeds, now playing gently in the breeze, nodded in agreement. The earlier trickery forgotten in the wake of the garden's healing, Jack felt a deep connection to him around him. He had learned so much from the garden about nature, about magic, and about himself. He knew that his journey here would forever be a part of him. As he sat under the wise old oak, Coziest, Jack reflected on his adventure. He had come to the garden seeking wonders, but he had found much more. He had discovered a purpose, a responsibility to protect and cherish the natural world. The garden in its renewed splendor was a testament to the power of hope and the resilience of nature. Jack realized that his journey didn't end here. The garden had taught him valuable lessons that he could take back to his own world. Lessons about caring for the environment and respecting the balance of nature. Filled with a sense of peace and determination, Jack knew that it was time to return to his world. He carried with him the magic of the garden, a magic that would always be a part of him. Uniting the garden's inhabitants. The restoration of the giant's garden was not just a victory for Jack, but for all its inhabitants. In the wake of the blight's defeat, there was a renewed sense of community and purpose among the plants and creatures Jack observed as they worked together to heal and fortify their home. The talking sunflower, Coziest, took the lead in organizing the plants under its guidance. The flowers and trees spread their roots deeper, intertwining with each other to form a stronger, more cohesive network. This mutual support helped to stabilize the soil and distribute nutrients and water more effectively. The singing roses formed a chorus, their harmonies encouraging growth and rejuvenation throughout the garden. Their melodies seemed to invigorate the other plants, inspiring them to reach new heights and bloom with unprecedented vibrancy. Even the mischievous weeds played their part, acting as guardians of the garden's borders. They kept a watchful eye for any signs of returning blight, their once troublesome nature now serving a greater purpose. The whispering grass shared stones of resilience and renewal, spreading a message of hope that permeated at every corner of the garden. This created an atmosphere of optimism and strength, reinforcing the unity among the garden's residents. The glowing mushrooms, having revealed their role as guardians during the night, continued to light the darker areas of the garden, ensuring that no corner was left in shadow. They served as beacons, guiding the nocturnal creatures and ensuring the safety of the garden after sundown. The fireflies, too, contributed to this nightly vigil. Their gentle light a comforting presence in the evening hours. They danced through the garden, a visual reminder of the magic that it held. This collective effort by all the garden's inhabitants illustrated the importance of working together for a common cause. Each plant, each creature, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, played a crucial role in the garden's ecosystem. Jack watched in admiration. This unity was the true strength of the giant's garden. It was a living example of how collaboration and mutual support could overcome even the greatest of challenges. As he prepared to leave the garden, Jack felt a sense of fulfillment. He had helped save this magical place, but in return, the garden had given him invaluable lessons about cooperation, resilience, and the delicate balance of nature. The final battle with the blight. Just as the giant's garden seemed to be returning to its full glory, Jack noticed a troubling sign. In a distant corner of the garden, a small patch of plants began to wither, the same ominous signs of the blight repairing. This discovery came as a shock. The blight they had all believed was vanquished. Determined not to let the garden fall into despair again, Jack rallied the inhabitants. His resurgence of the blight was a stark reminder that vigilance was necessary to maintain the balance and health of the garden. The plants and creatures, now united in their purpose, responded quickly. The talking sunflower, Helios, and the singing roses spread a call to action. Along these tubas weeds sprang up, forming barriers to prevent the spread of the blight. The whispering grass sent messages throughout the garden, alerting all to the resurgence. Jack led the charge, drawing upon the knowledge and strength he had gained. He approached the affected area cautiously, examining the withered plants. It was clear that this was a remnant of the original blight, the final, desperate attempt to reassert its influence. Remembering the words of the wise old oak, Helios, Jack understood that this battle was not just physical. It was a fight against the lingering sorrow and despair of the garden's past. He reached out, touching the withered plants, and whispered words of hope and renewal. As he did so, the glowing mushrooms and fireflies gathered around, casting their light upon the blighted area. Their combined glow seemed to infuse the plants with energy, countering the darkness of the blight. The garden's inhabitants worked together, each contributing their unique abilities. The energy and determination of every creature, every plant, flowed together, creating a powerful force of renewal. Slowly, the withered plants began to recover. The blight receded, unable to withstand the collective strength and resolve of the garden. The victory was a testament to the power of unity and the enduring resilience of the garden's magic. With the final remnants of the blight gone, a sense of peace and triumph settled over the garden. The plants and creatures celebrated, the joy palpable in the air. The garden was not just a collection of individual beings. It was a community, strong and vibrant. Jack stood amidst the celebration, feeling a deep connection to this magical place. He'd come as a stranger, but now he was part of the garden, a guardian of its magic and beauty. The final battle with the blight that strengthened the bond between Jack and the garden's inhabitants. Together, they had overcome adversity, proving that even the darkest of forces could be defeated with unity and perseverance. The garden's revival. With the final remnants of the blight eradicated, the giant's garden entered a period of remarkable revival. The young wizard plants burst back into life, their leaves unfurling to reveal vibrant hues and their flowers blooming in a dazzling array of colors. The air was filled with the fresh sense of rejuvenation and the melodious songs of the singing roses, which now seemed more jubilant than ever. Jack walked through the garden, a sense of awe washing over him as he witnessed the transformation. The talking sunflower Helios stood taller and brighter, its face beaming in the sunlight. The mischievous weeds, once a source of playful annoyance, now danced gently in the breeze, their earlier trickeries replaced by a display of joyous energy. The whispering grass told new stories, now tales of triumph and renewal. They spoke of Jack's bravery and the unity of the garden's inhabitants, creating a narrative of hope that would be whispered in the garden for generations to come. The glowing mushrooms and the fireflies illuminated the garden at night, the light symbolizing the enduring magic and resilience of this enchanted place. The fireflies' dance was a spectacle of celebration, their tiny lights weaving patterns of joy across the night sky. The garden was not just restored, it was transformed. It had weathered the storm of the blight and emerged stronger and more vibrant. The plants and creatures thrived, their bonds fortified by the challenges they had overcome together. Jack felt a deep sense of pride and fulfillment. He had played a crucial role in the garden's revival, but he knew the victory belonged to all its inhabitants. The garden was a testament to the power of unity and the enduring strength of nature. As he sat under the wise old oak, Helios, Jack reflected on his journey. The garden had taught him valuable lessons about the importance of balance, the strength in unity, and the resilience of the natural world. He had come to the garden seeking adventure, but he had found much more. He had found a purpose and a connection to something greater than himself. The revival of the garden was a celebration of life, a triumph of the collective spirit of all its inhabitants. It stood as a beacon of hope, a shining example of what could be achieved when all elements of nature worked together in harmony. Jack's return in view began. As the giant's garden basked in its newfound glory, Jack knew that his time there was drawing to a close. He had helped save this magical realm, but he also remembered his own world, a world that now seemed distant. He was waiting for his return. Before leaving, Jack took one last walk through the garden, savoring the beauty and peace that surrounded him. The talking sunflower Helios bid him a warm farewell, its face following the sun as it always did. "You will always be a part of this garden, Jack," Helios said. "Your bravery and kindness have left an indelible mark here." The singing roses serenaded him with a farewell song, their melodies sweet and melancholic. The mischievous weeds, now Jack's friends, playfully tugged at his clothes, a silent request for him to stay. The whispering grass shared its gentle goodbye, rustling softly as Jack passed. The glowing mushrooms and the fireflies lit his path as he walked through the garden at dusk, the light a guiding and comforting presence. They seemed to be sending him off with their blessing, their glow a reminder of the magic and mystery he had experienced. At the heart of the garden, Jack paused at the ancient tree, the epicenter of the garden's magic. He placed his hand on its gnarled bark, feeling a deep connection to the garden and its history. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." As he stepped through the portal vine, the same way he had entered, Jack felt a mix of sadness and hope. He was leaving a magical world behind, but he was taking with him precious memories and invaluable lessons. Jack emerged back into his own world, the familiar sights and sounds of his village greeting him. But he was not the same boy who had left. His adventure in the giant's garden had changed him, instilling in him a profound respect for nature and its delicate balance. Jack shared his incredible story with his mother, who listened in awe. His tales of talking flowers, singing mosses, and a garden full of magic sparked a sense of wonder in her eyes. Though it sounded like a fairy tale, she saw the truth in Jack's eyes and the wisdom he had gained. In the days that followed, Jack found himself applying the lessons he had learned in the garden. He took better care of the plants in their home, understanding the importance in the greater ecosystem. He shared his story with his friends, hoping to instill in them the same appreciation for nature that he now held. Jack's journey had come to an end, but it was also a new beginning. He had experienced the magic of the giant's garden, but the greatest magic he discovered was the impact one person can have in preserving the beauty and balance of the natural world. The giant's garden continued to thrive, a hidden realm of magic and wonder, forever grateful to the brave boy who had helped restore its magic. And Jack, with a heart full of memories and a spirit enriched by his adventure, looked forward to a future where he could make a difference in his world, just as he had in the garden.